Hey, Morgan Reagan, you know the offseason is all about lists. Who are your top 5 favorite teams to win a championship?
Well, everyone's trying to push out content in one way or another, but my only suggestion is try to be somewhat accurate, I guess.
Okay, well, I want to see how accurate you think this is from Bleacher Report's Grant Hughes, who dropped a list of the 5 most overrated players in the NBA.
Okay.
Number 5, DeMar DeRozan.
Weird.
Number 4, Kawhi Leonard.
I mean, okay.
Number 3, a really random one of Jonas Valanciunas.
Oh, definitely.
Number 2, Dylan Brooks.
Oh.
And number 1, Domas Sabonis.
All right.
Is the most overrated NBA player, according to Grant Hughes from Bleacher Report.
Sacramento, we're number 1.
Look, I'm not going to be the person that gets outraged at this because look, Grant Hughes has a job to do, man. You know what his job is? To put out something that you click on, read, get mad about, and talk about on a YouTube clip.
Wait, so his job is to push out clickbait bullshit, though?
Whoa!
Whoa! No, I'm not even trying to be mean. I truly feel like and we see a lot of places do this nowadays and go, look, what's gonna get the biggest reaction? Well, we know those Sacramento Kings fans over there will stick up for their guy.
Those Kings fans, they will jump at anything. So we'll go ahead and put him number 1 as the most overrated player in the NBA. Well, before we go crazy here, let's read what Grant Hughes had to say about it.
Fair enough.
To be fair, why don't you hear him out? Maybe he says something that makes sense.
What you got?
He writes, how is it possible for a 3-time All-Star center who just finished the season with 19 points, a league-leading 12.3 rebounds and 7.3 assists to be overrated? We'll start with the fact that he was essentially outplayed by Kevon Looney in the Sacramento Kings' first-round loss to the Warriors. That series swung in part on Sabonis' inability to shoot from the perimeter, put the ball on the floor in space, or defend the rim. Those 3 shortcomings mattered far less during the regular season when opponents didn't study up and force the Kings center out of his comfort zone.
So people didn't study up the entire season on him?
Well, Sabonis, not many people knew about him before the playoffs this year.
Okay,
no one knew about his game before this year, believe it or not.
Okay.
Sabonis is immensely gifted offensive player, but he's also limited. For a Kings team that is now concerned with succeeding in the playoffs, those limitations are meaningful. If he can't shore up his specific and obviously exploitable weaknesses, Sabonis will struggle to be a factor in the postseason games Sacramento wants to win. The Warriors provide the book on how to marginalize Sabonis, and future playoff opponents will have read it carefully. Compounding matters. I should read that again.
Yep. Compounding
matters.
Good.
The Kings handed Sabonis a contract extension that will pay him $217 million over the next 5 years. That's max level cash for players' postseason minutes against Golden State coincide with a minus 9.5 net rating. Goes on to write, an effective regular season weapon who had a great deal to do with the Kings' leap. Sabonis comes with too many conspicuous failings to warrant his star reputation and salary. Well, a couple of things.
Yeah.
Sabonis' salary is not that bad. He was an all-NBA third-team member last year. He made the All-Star team. He was part of the best offense in the NBA. And I think, what gets lost in this conversation about Sabonis' postseason was he was playing with an injured hand all year. From Christmas time on, the guy didn't go, let me go get surgery and be out. No, he elected not to have surgery and played through it, got hit on. I understand the larger point that if the Kings are going to make a jump in the playoffs, they need a better version of Sabonis offensively. They need him to take the mid-range shot. But to say all that and call him the most overrated player in the NBA is
Kings
asinine.
Just made the playoffs for the first time in 16 years.
And he was he was one of the key pieces for that team.
Leading the team because regular season can matter to an extent.
Yeah.
And we would have been shitting on this team even more if he didn't help lead this team into the playoffs. And you mentioned the hand injury. The guy led the league in rebounding. I don't know. Last time I checked, I think you have to use your hands to rebound.
Yes.
So you don't even have to talk about what the guy played through, right? We don't have to go through who had bigger injuries and played through them in this season. Really, when you talk about Domas Sabonis and his entire year, there's no way that you can say he's overrated. Now, a lot of people go to prisoner of the moment and they want to go to the postseason just like we were talking about. Completely understandable. We can shit on so many things that he did in the postseason or didn't do, the lack thereof, 100%. But I'm sorry, that shouldn't identify his entire career or even his entire season last year. I just think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, he's a player you can run the offense through. He could score. He's one of the toughest players in the NBA. And you mentioned the rebounding. Those are all things that matter. And he was part of a winning team. I think, too, with the postseason that gets lost, they needed some help. You know, Kevin Huerter was a non-factor. Harrison Barnes struggled. Keegan Murray struggled out of the game in the playoffs. I just named 3 starters, right? Like, if those guys are knocking down shots early in the series, what does that do for Sabonis and his game? There was definitely a stretch of that series where they were playing off of him, forcing him to take the mid-range that he did not want to take.
For sure.
They blew up the dribble handoff game. But it's also almost disrespectful to him and the Kings to suggest that maybe they can't learn from it. You talk about, there's a book on Sabonis and the Kings now. Well, the Kings have that same book, and they could evolve and change the way they do things going into the season as well.
Also, how many times last season, regular season, did we talk about why are teams just forcing him this way? You know, if they just force him this way, he can't. And what would happen is he would always be a step ahead of you, right? If you were forcing him one way, okay, or throwing a double at him, okay, he evolved and he wouldn't put the ball on the floor, and or he would see the double coming over and he would pass it out quickly. I think one of the funnest stats I saw from Will Z, he had over 50 assists to 5 different teammates. Herter 149, Keegan 116, Barnes 88, Fox 71, and Monk 60. And that just goes to show you how good he was at utilizing all of his teammates and making his entire team better players.
I think next year for him, I'd love for him to take the mid-range more and be confident with the three-point shot. That would open up a lot of things for the Kings. But to call him the most overrated player in the NBA, Grant Hughes, be honest. You didn't mean it. You
wanted that click.
You're stirring the pot.
And we clicked.
We did click.
We clicked.
We're the suckers.
Oh, God damn you.
Son of a... if you have any comments about the most overrated players, hell, let's steer positive. Who are some of the most underrated players in the NBA? Drop them in the comment section below. Make sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe to this channel too.